What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another edition of the Calling It How I See It Sports Podcast. Blake Terrance here with you, here to talk some Royals trade deadline. We're just a day short of a week out, a week from tomorrow, July 31st. Of course, the MLB trade deadline. Royals just won a series against the Chicago Cubs, who going into the series had the best record in baseball. So, I know for some folks, there's still going to be a lot of doubt as to what they ought to do with the deadline. But when you take the whole season picture into play, I think most people are at the conclusion that they need to be sellers at this point. So let's talk about that and a few other recent Royals topics tonight. Really excited to be joined by Joel Penfield. And, we're going to talk through a variety of trade deadline topics and just roster shuffling that goes along with that. Joel, how you doing tonight, man?
Oh, there we go. I'm unmuted now.
There you go.
I don't use spaces very often. I forget how.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad to be here, Blake. Thanks for having me on, man. You do great work. I appreciate you thinking of me to have me on.
Yeah. So have we seen Seth Lugo's? Did we just today witness Seth Lugo's last start in a Royals uniform?
I think so. This is a situation where he's coming off a good start. If you are a team that is in contention, you use this one more than the Marlins start as an indicator of what he can be. I thought he pitched really well today, some spotty command early, but really settled down a very good Chicago lineup today and bounced back from that start against the Marlins where he got knocked around in those first couple of innings. And if you're a team in contention, you want that extra start as opposed to him, he would pitch again. I think it's next Tuesday. I believe it, if I have my days correct.
I think so. Yeah. Because they got an off day tomorrow. So, yeah.
Right. So, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday next week. And at that point, you're right up on the deadline. And if you sign him or you trade for him, then you got to wait an extra 4 days before he makes his debut. If you trade for him now, sooner rather than later, you get him on full rest and it's an extra start. And maybe that's something that, some of these teams are going to look for. So I think you did potentially, but I also could see the Royals really wanting to play it out a little more and not necessarily from a contention perspective for them, but see if you can drive the market a little bit more on it. See if you can get more teams involved. And then at that point, you have a little bit of a bidding war for him and you're able to take the best deal.
Should Lugo just go ahead and book a long, like a long-term, or not long-term, I guess, in the sense of like a rental? Yeah. Should he book should he book something in Chicago? You think he's just might as well stay there? Get used to pitching at Wrigley?
Yeah. I mean, that is definitely a team that needs it. I mean, we saw that over this weekend. Like Matthew Boyd pitched incredibly well on Tuesday night. And obviously that we know what this offense is, but he pitched well. And you
Right.
tip your cap there, but like they had to use an opener and then Ben Brown, who's frankly just not very good, at least at this point in his young career. They knocked him around, and then Colin Ray is just a quad A guy at this point in his career.
And he's probably like 35 years old by now, right? He might not be that old, but he's got to be.
He's an organizational depth spot start guy, and they've really needed him to be a main part of their rotation with Justin Steele hurt. Shota Imanaga was hurt for a portion of this season. Like it just kind of is what it is at this point with that rotation. And Lugo would give them the veteran presence that they need, a guy has a lot of experience pitching in the postseason, and steady innings. I mean, he's gotten into the sixth inning in 33 of his 52 starts in Kansas City. I mean, that's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's 34, 35 years old and really has only started for a handful of years during his big league career. But the only thing to consider with the market for Lugo is that teams are going to consider him a rental. Right. This isn't a 1.5 years of control, because as much as I think $15 million is, he's going to get a heck of a lot more on the open market this offseason. Yeah. So you may as well just think of it as, I'm getting 8 to 10 starts from Seth Lugo down the stretch of the season, plus anything in the playoffs, and then he's going to go hit free agency and get anywhere from 22 to 25 million a year, at 36 years old, and cash in there. So that may be a consideration for Royals fans to think about, because obviously it is a little bit of a buyer's market. Teams are going to be in on Seth Lugo, but the return may not be what we think it would be and what fans would think it is for as good of a pitcher as he is, because it is a rental and not a year and a half.
Exactly. Well, and
consider when you see that return.
Exactly. And I think I think that you could take that a step further. And I actually see his player option as severely detrimental to his value, because think about, it's not just what you like that, because what you outlined is probably what will happen, and that's but for the team trading for him, that's the best case scenario. The best case scenario is he continues to do what he's doing and helps you out a little bit in the playoffs, and then goes and either, if you want to keep him, you got to pony up more money, or he's going to decline the option and goes elsewhere, and you can't even collect the draft pick because you traded for him mid-season. Do you think that could could holding on to him, we'll talk about the general Royals deadline decision making process too, but could holding on to Seth Lugo, not even necessarily because they think they're a major contender, but because they're concerned about those factors? Because, sorry, I kind of cut myself off. The downside there is actually more significant though, because what if you trade a package of prospects for Seth Lugo and then he blows his elbow out in September? Well, then not only have you lost your big deadline acquisition, but you now are probably saddled with a $15 million dead money hit next year's, because he'll just exercise that option, collect his paychecks, and then rehab and go back out and try again in 2027. And so I feel like that option is pretty detrimental to his value. So curious of your thoughts on that, and also wondering, do you think, could that be a valid reason for the Royals to say, hey, with this sort of thing in mind, we didn't really love the offers we were getting. We'd rather just have the first round pick next year for
Yeah,
giving him the qualifying offer?
the injury avenue was not one that I had considered. That's a really good point, but I don't think that's something that teams would consider. I don't think that greatly, because if, say, he does get hurt at the end of this year, okay, well, maybe he still just goes, you know what? I'm probably going to get, say it's like a rotator cuff thing or like a flexor strain. It's not necessarily his UCL tears and he has to have Tommy John.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like, okay,
Whatever it is. Yeah.
I'm probably still going to get a 2 for 40 on the open market. Like, I'm going to get more than 15 million a year, and then it still ends up being
That's
really
true.
good
Yeah.
regardless.
That is probably true.
So I think the likelihood, unless it is a devastating injury, which obviously you don't want, even if the Royals do trade him, because I enjoy watching him pitch.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
I don't think it's that is as much of a consideration as you brought up, but I do think that is something that I'm sure teams consider. But that's the risk in trading for pitchers at any point, not just
That's true. Yeah.
trade deadline. Like you did, it's something that you have to consider with you're throwing a baseball in an unnatural motion 90 plus miles an hour. Elbows go. It's just kind of the way it goes. But I also wonder, when it comes to trading Lugo, if the Royals try and package a reliever along
Mhm.
with him to sweeten the pot a little bit. Like a John Schreiber, who has a year and a half of control, Carlos Estevez,
Yeah.
who's a year and a half of control. Those are a couple of guys that I think are going to be on the move as well, potentially. And does that make the deal look any different? Who else could you attach to maybe get a better return back for Kansas City? Because
Yeah.
I think what a lot of people, and what I've noticed online, I got into a conversation on the Zone with Jason Anderson and Sterling Holmes earlier this week, talking about, okay, who are some names to talk about for trades? And like they brought up like Michael Garcia and Cags and Lucas Ursig and all these names. And I'm like, this isn't a fire sale. This isn't 2019 when this team was objectively awful, when it was, we're not close, let's sell off anything we can. This team has talked about fully contending in 2026. So you still have to keep good people in on this team and just reset a little bit for 2026. And I think that's the direction that they need to head. This is a soft sell. This is not selling off anything and everything because we're blowing up the contention window. We're nowhere near that at this point.
I want to hear your take on the other point I made there too. If the Royals tell us, let's say they don't trade Seth Lugo this deadline, and whether it's immediately afterward or at the end of the season, whenever JJ Picola gets asked about that, if he says, well, whether it was the contract specifics or whatever, we just didn't love the packages we were getting, and we thought we had a decent chance at re-signing him. And even if we don't, we think a extra first rounder in 26 is more valuable than any of the trade packages we were being offered right now. That I keep bringing it up because I just feel like whether it's because of the contract or like you just said, because of rentals aren't as valuable, period, no matter how good the player is, I feel like that very well could be where this goes. And then, of course, at that point, it's all basically down to like judgment calls and trustworthiness, right? Because you don't know what they were being offered. So you essentially just have to, you either do or don't take JJ's word for it. So if that scenario comes about and he says, we just didn't like what we were being offered and we thought we had a chance at re-signing him, and if we don't, we get a first round pick. What do you think?
I'll be honest. I think it would be malpractice to not trade him. Just flatly, because I don't think you have a chance to re-sign him. Like, I don't think the Royals are going to be in the market for a $25 million a year pitcher. Like, that's just not the type of market that they go in. Like, they got Michael Walker, but that's $17 million a year.
Yeah.
And that's cheap relative to what the starting pitching market looks like. And they got that extension done quick. And I'm glad that they did.
Yeah, still in October, I think, wasn't it? It was in the month of October.
It was it wasn't the end of October. It was like right after, like, he declined his player option, which he absolutely should have because he was.
And then the next day or two, yeah.
And then within 2 days, they had the deal done, and they got it done early. And by getting it done early, they saved themselves probably $5 to $8 million a year on Michael Walker. But I don't think they're going to be able to afford a $17 million pitcher. I think Reagan's money goes up a little bit with that pre-arb extension that he signed, and a $20 to $25 million pitcher in your rotation.
Not with all the issues they have on offense.
No, I just don't think it's a tenable situation. So even if you think, hey, we're going to be competitive to the end of this season and we're going to be able to keep ourselves in it, we may not get there, but I think you need to trade Seth Lugo regardless. Make your team better for now and for the future. And I think trading him does that, because say you trade Carlos Estevez and Seth Lugo to somebody and you're able to get the corner outfield bat that you've coveted for a year and a half that has 3 or 4 years of control left. That makes your team better now and for next year. And I know that trading a high-level starting pitcher that finished top 2 in Cy Young last year and is probably going to get a top 10 vote or two next season, at the end of this season, that sucks. But I think what they've also shown is that this organization can develop pitching. They have reinforcements on the way that you feel comfortable, like they can legitimately develop good starting pitching. Noah Cameron is a perfect example of that. Who else can you get that is cost control, that is good, that you're going to have around for longer than you would have Seth?
I'll tell you, if they trade Lugo and Estevez, whether it's in the package or separately, and they package a different reliever with Lugo, I mean, that's, you talk about clearing the decks in terms of, I mean, then they should be in play for pretty much any given free agent, because Salvi gets cheaper next. I mean, his contract's technically up, but there's an option which is cheaper, and
option for 13. It's like $13.5 million.
Yeah, about a $9 million pay cut. A couple guys will get more expensive too. Of course, Bobby's deal progressively gets up. Bubic will command a lot more. Reagan's goes up a little bit, like you said, but they're shedding a lot of some of the dead payroll after this year, like Hunter Renfroe, Chris Stratton. I think Hunter Dozier even had a tiny little cap hit on this year. So if they trade Estevez,
honestly, I straight up forgot Hunter Dozier existed.
Well, I mean, I don't think he does in baseball anymore, but the Royals still owe him like $1 million this year. So nothing that was. But yeah, I mean, talk about clearing the decks. I mean, they should be in business. They should be in play for whatever hitter they want.
This is the last year of that deal, so that's the end of that dead money.
Yeah, I don't know what that. we won't even go there. All right, so let's real quick, I guess, last thing on Lugo here. Do you think that is the first round pick that you would get if he declines the QO and signs elsewhere, assuming it's for over $50 million, which is an interesting fact you bring up too, because of his age. It very well could be that they get screwed on that, even if they think they're being clever too and being like, well, we didn't love the trade offers, but we get an extra first rounder. And then he because he's older, he only gets 2 years, and even if it's 24 per year, it's only 48 million. It's got to be over 50 million to trigger the QO thing, and if it's not, you get like a 4th round pick. So do you think that standard of like a first round pick-ish, late first rounder, is that your standard for what you do accept as an offer for him? Like, how do you like make that final determination?
So I actually think he does get 3 years. for his age, 36 to 39. And I know that sounds crazy, given that teams are not necessarily paying guys that are over 35, 36 a ton of money, or giving them multiple years on the deal, unless you're Max Scherzer or Justin
Right.
Verlander, who are legends. Seth Lugo was a reliever for so long that his arm is probably that of like a 31-year-old or 32-year-old, because he just doesn't have the mileage that a 36-year-old starting pitcher would. So I do think that, and that's why we saw him throw 200 plus innings last season at 34, and he's pacing for somewhere in that range this season as well. So I do think that is, well, maybe not 200 because of the IL stint, but he'll easily get north of 170, 180. He's probably still got another 400, 500 innings that he can throw, because the most he had thrown before 2023 became a full-time starter was 101 and a third. And then it was a lot of reliever innings, and then 146, 206 and 2/3 last season, which is crazy. And then 107 this year, even with an IL stint. So he's going to get a lot of money. He's going to get multiple years. I think he would hit that, but I would rather get a more sure thing than a draft pick. Like, the Royals have done a much better job of drafting, but I would rather take a more known commodity than a first round draft pick.
Yeah, we'll come back to the trade deadline as we wrap up toward the end, and we'll talk about some of the specifics. We want to move on to a couple other topics here. We're talking to Joel Penfield of the One Royal Way podcast on KC Sports Network. Joel, what are we complaining about? MJ Melendez is back. It's all fixed. Like, what are we complaining about this offense for? It's fine. So is that just roster finagling? They didn't have that was just the guy to call up when Lofton got hurt. Is he really back? What do you think?
I do think he is back. I don't have super high expectations for it. I kind of wipe my hands of MJ when they sent him down to AAA. I'm like, okay, well, at first I was like, okay, hey, maybe this is the Mike Moustakas thing, 2-3 weeks, get some stuff set up, humble him a little bit, and then he's able to come back up and be a part of it. And then he just stayed down there for what, 2.5, almost 3 months.
Yep.
At that point, I was like, okay, there's a lot more to fix. B, I just don't know. Like, they gave John Rave a lot of run, and now he's been better of late, but it looked like, yikes, they're giving John Rave a lot of run. They're giving Drew Waters a lot of run, and it looks like it's an issue. Kevin Biggio was still up for quite a while after that.
Yep.
Nick Lofton has been kind of hit or miss throughout this season, and they're giving them a lot of run, and MJ Melendez is still just sitting down there like, okay, I guess. This is really kind of, Custer's last stand for MJ. Like, this is his last shot, in my opinion, for him to be a viable big leaguer at any point. I still don't have high expectations that that's the case, but we'll see. And I look at this as, this team, I don't think is going to contend for a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to be significant buyers at the deadline to improve the roster to a point where they can compete. So at that point, to me, the season, for all intents and purposes, is on to 2026. So you're better off seeing what you have with MJ now. And I think calling him up now, as opposed to after the All-Star, after maybe the All-Star break or earlier or after the trade deadline, to me signals, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. So you might as well give him the at-bats now, when it's pretty much just, let's see what you have for the rest of this year, and we'll know if you can be a part of this next year.
By the way, your history analogy was good, and it's a different spelling, but I'm still going to choose to be mad at you because I'm 2 weeks free of ice cream, and you just said Custer's last stand.
Oh,
so anyway, what does he have to do to, like, I just
hit?
Like, he didn't really. Well, yeah.
It's simple. Like, I'm not asking him to be a Gold Glove outfielder. He's not going to come back and be the reincarnation of Alex Gordon, but you just got to hit.
Hey, it worked in Omaha one time.
Yeah, it did. But much better baseball player and a much better track record at this point. Like,
yeah,
I mean, he was a -6 weighted runs created plus before he went down. And that was just.
And by the way, 0 is not average. 100 is average.
100 is average. That's 106% worse than the average. And
yeah, not 6, 106.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Can he do what he did last year and hit 200 with a 400 slug? I don't know.
Boy, this team could use that right now, couldn't they? Like, isn't it crazy to think about how like it wouldn't have been good. Like it would have still been disappointing. But like, where would this team be with just MJ Melendez just being the exact same player he was last year?
Yeah, I mean, it
Like,
would have made a huge difference. I mean, a massive difference. But he just kind of is who he is, and I kind of bought into maybe some of the changes last season. Like, okay, maybe some of this stuff will help free things up. You know, he is pretty athletic, but he's just got to quiet some of the stuff that he does in his stance. You know, hands moving too much, his head's moving too much. Like, just quiet it. And he did that for a little bit, and then he was struggling early in the year, and then he reverted back to everything he had been doing before. And it was like, okay, this guy's he's kind of in his head.
yep.
He's just a little too mental. Just try, you know, and I understand the constant tinkering thing. Everyone does that. You know, I played baseball long enough. I know exactly what that's like, even at a much lower level. But at a certain point, like, you just got to try some new stuff and just stick with it and see if it can kick the bad habit. But like down in AAA, you know, he slashed 248, 297, 465. Still striking out 28% of the time against pitching that isn't good. You know,
Yeah.
that's why the gap between AAA and the majors is so vast.
They
Because the
used to
pitching is
have
so
a
useful.
Clay Davenport used to have a good form. I don't think the website where you can run it through there exists anymore, unfortunately. But he used to have a website where you could literally put. Now, again, it was imprecise because you didn't have.
Like kind of prorate a triple A strikeout rate from
You
Big League
could
One.
type in a performance at AAA or AA, and then like it would extrapolate it to the different levels of the minors and the majors. And again, like so it's very imprecise because it doesn't take any of the specifics of who you're doing. It like there's not even an entry for that. But I remember when I used to be able to do that, and then the tool kind of disappeared when Clay Davenport went a little bit dark. But anyway, I don't know exactly what it translated to, but I have like general ideas in my head when I hear minor league slash lines now from when I used to use that. That translates to like as bad or worse as he was last year. Now I know we just talked about how that would look amazing in this lineup, but like let's be clear, he did not show progress down there. I mean, like maybe he did mechanically, but that's why I asked the original question of is he back or is it just roster shuffling? Because there's no reason to think something dramatic has changed, right?
I don't think so. Now, to be fair, he did have a decent stretch of ball over the last few weeks.
Yeah, he's been hot
I'm trying
recently.
to
Yeah.
find. Yeah, I'm trying to find the numbers to make sure that I can
Yeah, I saw
be.
something earlier today too. You're right. He'd hit like 5 homers in the last 15 games or something, maybe.
Yeah,
But
like he had been semi decent. If I can find it, I'll mention it.
when he first went down, his first couple
Okay,
weeks were
so
just as
okay, here it
bad.
is. Yeah, so he's been slashing since June 20th. It's a OPS over 1,000 with 6 homers and 16 RBIs, hitting 323. So I
Which is a
get like,
month. I mean,
yeah, I mean that's yeah. So yeah, he'd been better as of late, kind of turned the corner. I do wonder because he struggled really
Oh
badly.
yeah, he was just as bad in AAA his first month down
And
there.
I do think that was a mental thing. That
I'm
was,
sure.
man, I've been in the big leagues for 3 years. You know, I've been established. And now they're sending me down now. Like, I do think that does take a toll mentally on guys.
I
But
bet.
once he kind of got out of that and just kind of accepted, like, I got to get things right. For everything I had ever experienced, you know, around him and, uh, you know, with him, like, he is a great dude. He works his butt off. You know, he's not just one of these guys trying to get by on pure talent. I think it's just a little like, yeah, I think he just tries to do a little too much. And so maybe he just needed to simplify some things, see some AAA pitching, get some confidence. And maybe they've seen enough to where like, okay, let's see if this will work in the lineup. And I don't know if he's going to play every day. I bet they give him some run after the trade deadline
Mhm.
for a week, 10 days straight in the lineup. Let's see what you got. And we'll go from there. But I
He
think
have
this
any value as a throw into a trade package?
no, I
No,
don't
I
think
didn't
so.
think so either.
Like I don't even think this is a change of scenery sort of
No.
situation. I thought maybe you could throw Nick Prado into a trade last year as just change of scenery, but he's been
Yeah.
so terrible that you can't even do that. I think he's kind of reached that point where I don't even think it sweetens the pot on any sort
Yeah.
of deal. Now,
Mike
if
Massey
he goes
might,
out there,
for another similar situation.
maybe. But health is such a massive
Yep.
concern with him
A
that
Massey
I don't think
concern?
it matters.
Massey?
Yeah,
Massive? Yeah.
you can call it that. Yeah.
Anyway, that was terrible. All right. Well, I mean,
You
is he
tried there. You
I did.
tried to hit a home run and you hit it foul. Like you got there. Like you tried,
Did you
but
just say I
not
MJ
enough.
Melendez my joke? Is that what I did?
you Vinny Pasquantino'd it by hooking your thumb.
Oh man, yeah, that's on the nose after this. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean though. Or Bobby like flying out to right every time he gets a fastball
Yep.
down the middle lately. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, real quick, last thing on Melendez. Is he just playing? Is his like if you got a chance to talk to him and for some strange reason he asked you, hey, what's your advice for me? Like, what am I doing here now? Like, if he did that to me, I would say, do it like just do whatever you can because you getting a contract offered to you in arbitration next year means you did something pretty damn impressive this last couple of months.
Yeah.
Is that what you would say? Or
I would say, man, sell out for homers. Honestly, like I know that sounds dumb with the way this offense is, and I'd rather have dudes on base, but do what you do best, which is drive the ball pole side and just hunt pitches up early in counts and see how many homers you can hit because that there is value there, even if you hit
Mhm.
210. Uh,
Yep.
that would be.
I mean, I've always said MJ Melendez's
And,
dream scenario is Kyle Schwarber, like the absolute ceiling for him.
yeah, and I mean, even his that'd be like his 120th percentile outcome.
Yeah,
but,
probably. Yeah. Maybe
but
Jock
even
Peterson would be a better.
like current Jock Peterson is a decent.
Oh, jeez.
Not current, like 2020.
Not like this year. Okay, not this year. The one that was literally as bad
Not
as
this
Melendez. Okay.
Correct.
The General
that
Jock
was
Peterson.
General Jock Peterson, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
like if he can hit 6 to 8 homers and show that like he's not going to strike out a ton, be a little more selective, be a guy that is kind of a 3 true outcome guy that gets on base, there is value there, even if it's as a bench guy. But I don't have the expectation that he can.
Oh, sorry about that. Lost my spot here. All right, so I want to move on real quick here to just kind of talking about the offense as a whole. I mean, we all know that this offense has been, problematic, but it also seems like they are just like schizophrenic. They're just all over the place. Like I felt, if this series were actually a microcosm of the offense, it would be okay because then they'd have a 600 something winning percentage. So unfortunately, I said in our little topic conversation that this series felt like a microcosm. Unfortunately, the real microcosm would be more like the Marlins series where they explode once and have a victory, but kind of crap the bed in the other 2 games. That'd be more in line with, how the season's actually gone. But the point really is more about they'll have several games, and we've seen quite a few over the last couple weeks where you're like, oh, okay, like they put up double-digit runs, they put up a good amount, they hit well with runners in scoring position, it seems functional, and then they can go lay a complete turd the next game and then do the crazy thing again. That's exactly what they did in this series. Where does that line of thinking lead you? Does that make you think that it's even more that there's something off about the coaching message because the talent is so clearly there, at least at times? But then I know that a lot of us, even you and I think, had a discussion in which we kind of said that like maybe the coaching does need to be tweaked and maybe Alex Zumwalt isn't the guy, but I think at the end of the day, they just don't have enough good hitters. I know I found myself saying that too. So like, where does this like wildly inconsistent stuff come in to the whole offensive issues?
I mean, it's just kind of who they are, right? It's just who they've been all season. It's why I've kind of stopped. I see the offensive performances that they had the last 2 days. I'm like, that's awesome. I don't think it matters because I'm done trying to believe that that's going to be the thing that helps them turn a corner. It's just, I don't think that's the case. And it's unfortunate because you see what the ceiling of the offense can be. Obviously on, Monday night, they go crazy. Salvi with 2 home runs and Rave goes yard, Cags goes yard. And even without Bobby Witt Jr. today, Vinny goes yard, Salvi's on a crazy heater. But then you have games like last night where, yes, Matthew Boyd is very, very good, but you were non-competitive. But we've also seen games like the Marlins series, I think, is a way better example of that than anything else. Where, on
freaking Cal
Friday,
Quantrill shut them down, bro. Like
Cal Quantrill shoved it up their ass. Like I can't.
He's not good. Let's be clear.
Got a 6 ERA and he's been bad for most of his big league career. Like it's just not something that you can let happen. Frankie Montas had been not good for most of the season. He shoved it against
He doesn't get to take his
Like,
PEDs anymore. Whoops. Was that
no.
out loud?
But it's just so many times this season we've seen it's just not good enough. Like this team is just too inconsistent offensively, and it's part of why I don't view them as a contender, because they're just not good enough. And they're not consistent enough for me to think, oh yeah, this will turn around, things will change. I don't see it. I don't see that happen. So maybe they show some stuff down the stretch, like Bobby, turns a corner, Vinny stays hot, and you wonder, like, okay, with another year of this group, and maybe, and this is not me calling for anybody's job, but like you get a different voice in the hitting coach department, to bring a new philosophy, bring some new messaging, and maybe that is what helps unlock some of this stuff. And we'll see what happens in 26, because I do think the talent is certainly there. Some of this is also, as I've talked about, and I've talked about with other people from the organization, like the variance in runners and scoring position, like they knew that was going to regress some, because it was so unsustainably good for most of last year.
Yeah.
And it's like that stuff doesn't stay
Yeah.
year over year.
And I think, like, honestly,
for both all hitters and as a team. And this year it just swung so far in the other direction that it's made this offense terrible. And
you expect it to regress, but not all the way. Like, you expect it to go from first to 10th, not first to 30th. Like,
like I think they were 5th in all of baseball with runners on last year, which was great. Yeah, somewhere in that range. I think they were top 5. I think they were around 4 or 5. And I thought, okay, if it regresses and they're like 12th or 13th, like that's still a decent enough offense that you can be fine. But they went from 5th to 29th or 30th, and with an offense that doesn't hit for a lot of power and puts the ball in play, but doesn't hit the ball hard with any sort of regularity outside of Bobby and Salvi and Cags every once in a while. It's not a good situation. It's an offense that they were like, yeah, we want to put guys on, we want to move runners, we want to, turn singles into doubles, and kind of hit you to death by 1,000 cuts. That's great if you're good with runners on, but when you're not, it's objectively awful because you don't have someone that can go bridge at any moment. Even Vinny's shown a little more power in the season. He's still not a guy that you walk up going, yeah, he's going to hit a homer right here. You're kind of shocked when he elevates a ball and it's like, oh, dang, he got that one. Salvi's kind of that guy, but only in spurts like we're seeing right now.
And the scary thing is Jack is starting to follow that path of hitting too many ground balls.
Yes. And now to be fair, and I talked about this on my show recently, like he is turning a corner with some of the underlying numbers. The results just haven't matched, but the line drive rate's much higher. The ground ball rate's down like 16% from June to July.
Okay, good.
It was like 56% in June. It's like closer to 38 now. It was terrible.
Which, to be clear, for any people who aren't stat heads out there, that's still too high.
It's still too high.
But I mean, that sort of improvement looks real for sure. So good to know. Yes. I think there was like a weird disconnect there because like people didn't want to seem to acknowledge it, but then like I actually think it's almost more on us as fans. Now, I'm not trying to let anyone from the organization off the hook, right? Or just like give them a bunch of credit for doing bare minimum, doing their job. But you brought it up there that they knew that was going to regress. It's just nobody could have anticipated. And and I think that when you see people with such reactionary, hot takey stuff, I'm not above being goofy or saying something to get a raise out of people. But when people are just like, oh no, the incompetence of this leadership, Matt Quatrero, complete dummy, and AJ Piccolo just thinking everything's perfect, and it's just like, well, there's only so much you can do in one off season. But I think from a fan's perspective, we could have been a bit more attuned to that let's not just expect that because they took such a dramatic step forward between 23 and 24 that everything's just goes up and up and up all the time, because there's a lot of red flags underneath that. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot there. I do think, sometimes you do see teams like arrive a year early, and I think that's what 2024 was, going from 56 wins to 86 wins ahead of schedule. And then the next year they kind of fall backwards a little bit because they kind of played over their head. I do think there is some of that at play. I thought maybe because so much of this team, both veterans and the young guys, were still together, and there was so much of this team that was new or that was the same from last year, not as much new, that they'd be able to kind of take more of a step forward. And that just has obviously not been the case at all because they're middling and they've been incredibly inconsistent, where last year it felt like you kind of knew what you were going to get day in, day out from that team. I don't know what I'm going to get from this team most days.
Nope.
I'm going to get a game like this, like we saw today, where, hey, the offense kind of breaks out a little bit. The pitching's awesome. And you don't have to rely on a bunch of your high leverage guys, and you win a game with, some relative ease. Okay.
And
great.
then you and I can pitch a combined no hitter against.
Yeah. And then you get it shoved up your ass by a bad pitcher. And you lose 6-1, and the game's basically over in the fourth inning when you have, and they kind of have that one chance, like in the fourth or fifth inning, to get a couple across, and it's second and third, one out, and they can't get a runner. Like, that's when you kind of know the game is over. And so there is a level of predictability with that team, but also you don't know which team is going to show up some days.
Yeah.
So that's some of that is a bunch of young guys. Now they know how to win, but how do you sustain winning? That's kind of the next step. And I think the leadership in this team, like within the clubhouse, is the right move. I still like Matt Quatrero. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but then again, no one likes their manager. People hated Ned Yost when he was the manager.
Exactly. That's what he's for. He's there to get mad at when the players aren't doing their job.
When it's totally his fault, right? Damn, I told Angel Zerpa to go walk the first two guys. I told him we wanted first and second, nobody out. Yeah, dummy. Okay.
I told him I wanted to play the game on All-Star or whatever.
So I just think that's the thing to take away from, whenever you see this stuff about Quatrero, there is a through line between the people that don't like Matt Quatrero and also were tweeting hashtag Yosted in 2014 and 15. There is a direct correlation there, and don't let anyone tell you different.
Absolutely. All right. Let's wrap it up with kind of talking about what we want them to acquire. We talked about a lot about what they could send away at the trade deadline. Talking to Joel Penfield here of the One Royal Way podcast on KC Sports Network. And Joel, everybody, of course, I think is on the outfield train, as am I. But I want to make sure we talk about the other angle of it, that we don't lock ourselves out of better trades. And now, if it's, say, the Cubs, for example, the Cubs system actually fits so well that I don't think you'd get like a surprise, like, wait, who? I thought we needed outfield, So I think if they were to trade Lugo to the Cubs, it would be for like Owen Cassey or Kevin Alcantara. Like they have most of their best prospects are outfielders, so it's a perfect fit. Generally speaking, and again, there's other guys that theoretically could surprise, like Lugo's just the elephant in the room because of his contract status, but they have a lot of guys that theoretically could be replaced over time, that maybe if they have what we would think of as surplus value, then maybe you move them, other guys that are not immediate free agents, you talked about how relievers, and you have faith in them to keep developing relievers, as I do. So, maybe Lucas Ersteg or Steven Cruz is also attractive, with all the catching prospects they have. Maybe Freddie Fermin or something is attractive. I know
that is the one that is kind of the wild card guy that I think they should move. And I love Freddie.
I agree. I think it would be a smart, it would be a very forward thing. Lugo is the obvious thing. Literally anybody playing MLB The Show would be aware that Seth Lugo is a trade target right now. Trading Fermin for talent down the road would be it would be like a Tampa Bay Rays, Milwaukee Brewers, those smart small market organizations. It would be like them to do that. So I agree with Fermin. Yeah. So what do you think they need to be focusing on outfield strictly, or do you think there's a path where they could surprise us, trade for something else, maybe Seth Lugo's replacement, if you will, in the rotation next year, because they got a lot of lefties under contract, but only Michael Wacha, righty, under contract. So maybe it's something like that. What do you think? Do you think they ought to be open to anything, or do you think they need to be looking at outfielders only and not get distracted?
So I think it's going to be kind of what we saw this offseason, where JJ talked about we need to go and find a corner outfield bat. That needs to be part of it. We need a leadoff hitter. We need a corner outfield bat. We found the leadoff hitter in Indio. We can relitigate that trade at a different time, but it was the right process. And then we also need a corner outfield bat with some power, but they didn't force it, right? They offered Anthony Santander, and he has not played well. So you kind of wonder why Royals dodged a bullet on the contract.
There really isn't a whole lot of not buyers, whatever they, not buyers remorse, but there's not a whole lot of guys from this past year's free agent class that the Royals should be like, damn, we didn't get that guy. Like most of the guys they could have gotten have kind of disappointed.
Right. And like, yeah, because Anthony Santander, he only played 50 games, slashed a $179, 273, 304. Like he was terrible. So imagine if you trade for
That's
that.
MJ Melendez territory.
$65-70 million.
Yeah.
Would have been terrible. But I think they're going to seek that, but I don't think they're going to pigeonhole themselves into it by just, hey, we'll take the outfield bat even if they don't love the guy. Like I don't think that's the case at all. I think they're going to take whatever is available. If the best thing you get for Seth Lugo is a top pitching prospect in the system that's in high A, great, you go get that guy. You do what you can for the what's best with this organization, and I do think JJ has earned a lot of benefit of the doubt with the way he handled the trade deadline in 2023. You trade Aroldis Chapman, you get Cole Reagans back. In last year's, you get Lucas Ursig for a bunch of mid-level prospects. I think there is some benefit of the doubt earned with the way that he can wheel and deal. And I think he's going to do whatever's right when it comes to getting the right pieces back for this team, not that can just help now, but also in the future. The big fish that I would love, and like Rosenthal reported, like the Royals would be interested in him. I don't know what the trade would look like. But Jarren Duran would be awesome. He's got 3 years of control.
That would reignite some excitement this season, whether it should or not, honestly.
It would be steep, but it's one of those things where you would trade Lugo, but you would get the free agent bat you want, but you'd also it would probably cost a Blake Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd be willing to part with that. With between Ramon Ramirez and Carter Jensen, I would do it.
Yep.
I wouldn't trade Jensen. I would trade Mitchell at this point because I think Jensen's closer. There's still a lot of unknown with Blake Mitchell. Who knows if he even pans out with the amount that he strikes out.
Yeah, I agree. You got to have some heir apparent comfortability with Salvi at some point. He's really the first one they've had. Yeah, and I'm still like, lines,
I think Jensen is good, but I'm not sold he's like an everyday big leaguer quite yet. But I do think that it is like it's on the board, even if it's not necessarily like right there.
Right. Sure.
But I think they're going to end up getting whatever they can. They'll end up getting a decent haul for Lugo, and then if they go and trade a Freddie Fermin to like San Diego, to me is the obvious trade. Or have you seen what their catchers have done this year, Blake?
No, but I know that is it Terrance was their main guy, or Campusano? Yeah, that's right.
Campusano is one of their catchers.
And he was a big top prospect at one point, but he's disappointed. I know that.
And he's played 10 games, and he's 0 for the season with 6 walks. Yeah. Elias Diaz, former All-Star Game MVP, is their starting catcher, slashing a $198.
Wait, what? 73. The Major League All-Star Game or the minor league?
Major League. Yeah, the one in Seattle. He had a home run off Felix Bautista.
Was that last year, 2 years ago? I forgot all about that. Huh.
Yep.
I had forgotten all about that. Now that you said Felix Bautista, though, I'm remembering. Yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's not been good.
And then their backup is Martin Maldonado, who's slashing a $190, 229, 321. So
old friend
Freddie Fermin, I'm not going to sit here and act like Freddie Fermin is a star, but he would come in with an OPS at 658 and an OPS plus of 85, and that is a massive improvement over what they would do. And the way that the Fermin conversation I think gets interesting when it comes to trading him is, okay, you still have Salvi, you still have Luke Maile, who is a fine backup catcher, works well with the pitching staff. He can hit his weight enough that you can play him twice a week, and it's fine. It also gives you the avenue to bring up Carter Jensen in September when rosters expand.
Yep.
Get Salvi off his feet. He doesn't have to catch. He can just be first base DH at the end of the season and just mash home runs. Maile and Jensen can catch. Jensen can get a little taste of the big leagues. He can work with Waka and Bubic and Cameron and all these guys and get used to catching them and get a little taste of big league pitching to see how ready he is and if he could potentially break camp with you in 26 or if he needs a little bit of time in AAA. I think it is a perfect avenue, and hometown kid getting a debut in September. Even if the team isn't in contention, that'll get people interested as we get into football season. So that would be an avenue for you. Trade for to get ready for the future. And also you cash in on a very good backup catcher where there's a ton of value.
How awesome would it be to see him catch Noah Cameron, like the two hometown guys debuting in the same year?
That would be very cool.
Uh,
That would be very
I want to wrap up with this one. So you kind of touched on this a second ago, but most of the talk, and if I didn't already make it clear, which I assume I did, like I'm totally on board. If you can flip Seth Lugo plus prospects for an established major leaguer like Jarren Duran, I mean that. Yes, now Duran he's already on a long-term deal, I believe, and like anybody else like that is probably going to be pretty expensive. So there is no get them cheap for a while like you are Jack and other guys. So that's the downside of it, I suppose. But I'm totally down for that because then it makes it much easier to believe you're truly ready in 26. But you talked about like even if it's like a stud in A-ball, and I think that's something to talk about for a second because you had said that it's a general trust in the organization and in JJ to make the right moves, and it's that for me. But it's also you can address a lot of things. You can address a lot of things in free agency when you only have to address that specific thing. So like if you just have, say, one outfield spot that you're determined to fill with the best possible guy, and then Kyle Isbell and everybody else is going to try to fill it in, that can make a big difference. But you're only comfortable doing that in free agency if you've got plenty of prospects behind him, and the farm system's still a tad thin. So I agree that if you can get a top prospect, but he's still 2 years away from the majors, that's just as wise and just as exciting of a trade as if it's somebody that's already at the majors or knocking on the door in AAA. So where are you at? Do you think that further away is automatically less desirable, or do you trust him enough in free agency as well that as long as it's a quality prospect, you're cool with whatever, even if he's years away?
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky spot because I don't know how much this team will be able to spend in free agency. It depends on how much John Sherman wants to open up the pocketbook like he did in the 23 offseason. But, I mean, if you can get a guy that's in AA right now, like you think about it this way, just from position players in this organization, I'm looking at Pipeline's top 30, just for the sake of argument here. Say you get a guy that's in AA and kind of like on the fast track, maybe mid 26, he's ready to go.
Yeah, where Jack was earlier this year.
Where Jack was at the beginning of this year. Yes, that kind of thing. Yandel Ricardo, shortstop, is in low A. Ramon Ramirez is in low A. Espo Gonzalez is in low A. Gavin Cross is in AA, but I don't know. I don't really think he's a big leaguer at this point. Austin Charles is in high A. Daniel Vasquez is in high A. Warren Calcano is in rookie ball. Carson Rockefort's in AA, but he strikes out too much for my liking. Like that, Yannick Ugarte is in rookie ball and complex. Like, there's just not a lot that's close. Blake Mitchell is in high A, and still, I think, a ways away from being in the big leagues, given some of the offensive stuff that he's got to work through. So if you go and get a guy like that can maybe help you next year, it doesn't set you back as far as it seems. Because there's so many position players that are not as close as some of the pitchers would be that are top prospects in this organization.
That's Joel Penfield of the One Royal Way podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network. Joel, I'm sure we'll have you back on again soon to talk about what they actually did do at the trade deadline. So we'll be talking again soon, man. Thanks so much.
We'll love it, man. Have a great night. Thank you very much.
That's Joel Penfield, and I'm Blake Terrance on the Calling It How I See It Sports Podcast.